just so excited. Look at this. Isn't that so cool? I think it's great. And I think it goes really well with my dress that I also just made today. I'm just so excited about everything. So I hope you guys love this video, and look at that three-dimensionalism. I love what I do. So first I got started with my beautiful pink garden roses. And you can see in this reference photo just how very pastel everything is. So I really wanted to get the pink shade correct before I added in my titanium buff. Titanium buff is basically white, but it is down a few notches, like on the value scale. It works really well when you're doing something like this where you're not really wanting the pink to be the brightest flower, right? You could see in the reference photo the ivory flowers, even though they were the brightest, they still weren't white. So I had to do a little bit of color maneuvers here. I had never worked with a limited palette quite like this. And I was really nervous about how it worked out. And in the end, I'm very excited to say that I'm super happy with it, super pleased with the result. So I actually was very nervous about these garden roses because I'd never made successful garden roses that I really loved. And don't worry, I'm actually going to show you, I'm speeding up through this process because I have a video coming out next week. That is a very nice paste tutorial for these garden roses, and I speak during the process. So if you like to listen to me work through problems and solve, my own conundrums as I go, that will be a great video for you to watch. And after I created my beautiful pink garden roses, I started creating these ivory roses, and what I ended up doing for these, and I'm also going to drop a tutorial for this one, so the next 2 weeks are both going to be tutorial videos. In this tutorial, I am going to cover the colors and the tips and my thinking process of like how I created them, so everything will be explained there. You can see how beautiful these look when they're dry. They're absolutely gorgeous. So let's do some ASMR. And these flowers are quite large. I was very generous when I was piping them, so they turned out to be quite large, but they are so beautiful. I really love the color melts in the middle of the pink one. And you can see I think I called these white roses. They're supposed to be peonies, actually. They look pretty similar to my roses because I was trying to make a very closed peony, and alas, the middle still kind of has that typical rose shape, so it is what it is, but they're supposed to be peonies, even though I said it wrong in the beginning of this video. My apologies. So I put this on a 12 by 12 canvas, and I noticed that the canvas had a dent in it, and so I just sprayed it with some water to soften the canvas, and then once it dries it'll spring back and everything will be fine. You could just paint over it too, but I was just being extra picky because I felt like it. And then of course you can see I'm using my rotating cake stand. So I'm going to be using a Gaffrey chartreuse, and then I'm going to be also using a little bit of paint that's left over from another project where I really wanted a mixed green color. And then I'm also going to be using some titanium buff here. And then this is just where I'm adding my greens into it because I want to create a very soft green. Like you saw in the reference photo, it is going to be a very low contrast pastel flowerscape, bouquet, whatever you want to call it. So I just created this beautiful shade. So then I started mixing my colors for the background of the canvas. I believe I'm using titanium white, black, and then a phthalo blue. And phthalo blue is very, very strong. Ultramarine blue is a much softer, warmer shade, but this phthalo blue is very strong, very pigmented, and I wanted to bring down the color a little bit. So I created a very, very nice mixture with the white and the black being added to it because it brings it towards a more neutral smoky blue, which I think is just beautiful. So then I covered my canvas and I played around with the shades and stuff like that. I went in and I added a little bit more black to the top and let it kind of blend into the background. I just wanted to have a little bit of extra dimension in the background. And then I was just playing around and I kind of thought, you know, this might be a fun idea. I haven't done this before in the background. These could be like little shadowy, you know, additions to the bouquet. It'll make it feel a little extra 3D, you know? So I had fun playing around with these, just putting the shapes wherever I wanted, and this is what it looked like when I finished. And then I got started with my piping. So this is supposed to be one of those long flowers, kind of like, I think it was called a wax flower. So when I looked at the picture, I had some green in the background and then white flowers over the top. So I went in with my beautiful chartreuse and white mixture, and I started creating these shapes that are going to be the base for my wax flowers. And then I wanted to smooth them over with my palette knife. So that's just what I'm doing here, and I'm also just creating some little leaves in the background as I go along with the extra paint from my palette knife. So then I started piping. This is a mixture you can see there in the bag. It's got a little bit of that same chartreuse color, not a lot, and some titanium white. And this is I'm not sure what this tip number is, but it's a little bit of a star shape, but not quite right. It's not all the way equal. It's listed in my Amazon links. So then I got to go in and add all these beautiful flowers. And this part usually takes me quite a long time. So I cut a lot of the deciding time out of it so that you can just see where I do end up placing the flowers. But on my end, I do contemplate and hold like the flowers over the area where I want to place them, and then I readjust them a couple times if I need to. So it usually does take me quite a long time to decide on the placements, because after I spend all this time creating these beautiful flowers, I do also want them to be arranged very well. And this is something I keep improving on, which I really enjoy. I really enjoy being able to look at something and notice what's missing or what it needs. And I think I'm getting so good at this. For example, you can kind of see at this stage, I am missing a little bit of order, I'll say. So I ended up going in with some green, this green that I'm using right now. And then I also was like, you know, it's lacking a little bit of contrast. And it also needs, like, some of those empty spaces need to be filled in. So I ended up mixing a new green, which you'll see in a minute. And I also added that in, and I thought it just filled in the space between the flowers so well. It looked so good. And in the end, this piece is just so cool. And I did have a lot of those moments where I was like, okay, it's missing something. I think I know what to do to fix it. And I did. And I was really pleased with it. You see this green? It's a brighter green than anything in the picture, of course. But it does a good job at creating a balance within the piece, and it's very visually appealing. So, you know, sometimes that's the thing about being an artist, is you really do need to take responsibility for the end result, even if you're not going to replicate the original reference photo 100%. Like, you should still be able to just make it look good. And that's exactly what I did here. I played around a lot with it. I love this little rosebud stamping thing that I'm doing right now. I thought that was super cool. Then I signed it with my piping bag as well. And then I added just a few more details. Doesn't that just look so cool? It's so three-dimensional, and the colors are really, really good. So here it is, finished, dry, in the sunlight, next to the reference photo. I am so proud. I am so happy. I really love how it turned out. And I really enjoyed the creative process and what I learned throughout this. And I am so excited to show you those tutorials. So you're going to be so excited to learn exactly how I made them. This video would have just been much too long if I would have added those. Of course, I'm very pleased, as you know, with how this turned out. So I hope you guys loved this video as much as I loved making it. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week.